December 20th, 1944. 3:40 a.m. somewhere outside Luxembourg City. A bare bulb swings from the ceiling, throwing long shadows across a concrete room that smells of wet wool, cigarette smoke, and cold metal. The walls sweat. So do the men inside. A German officer sits on a wooden chair with no backrest, his greatcoat still stiff with frozen mud. Frost clings to the seams of his boots. His hands are red, raw, trembling, not from fear, not yet, but from hours in the winter air. Outside, artillery thuds in the distance like a giant closing a door again and again. Across from him, an American intelligence captain flips open a field notebook. No theatrics, no shouting, just a pen scratching paper. Name, rank, unit. The officer answers in clipped, careful English. Hauptmann, Panzer Grenadiers. His voice is steady, too steady. The questions continue. Routes, fuel shortages, last radio contact. German units moving west, east, anywhere they can still move at all. Then there's a pause. The German officer shifts in his seat. He swallows, leans forward slightly, as if breaking a rule he's been obeying his entire career. Finally, he asks it. Is it true? The American looks up. Is who true? He replies. The German hesitates. His eyes flick to the door, then back. Patton. A beat. Is General Patton here? The room changes. Not dramatically. No music swells. No explosion outside. But something tightens in the air like a wire pulled just a little too far. The American intelligence officer doesn't answer right away. He's seen this before. In the last 48 hours, 3 other prisoners, 2 officers and a Luftwaffe liaison have asked the same question. Not about tank strength, not about air cover. Just one name. Patton. The German officer exhales, slow and controlled, watching the American's face for any flicker of confirmation. His confidence, the same confidence he had shown minutes earlier when describing American supply problems, has thinned. You can almost see it draining out of him. The American finally speaks. Why do you ask? The German leans back, the chair creaks. Because, he says quietly, if Patton is here, then we are already too late. Outside the interrogation room, the Ardennes winter presses in like an enemy of its own. Snow piles against the hedgerows, trees crack under the weight of ice, trucks stall, radios fail, men curse the cold more than the Germans. This is supposed to be the moment the Wehrmacht turns the war around, the last great offensive, Hitler's gamble. And for a few days it has worked. American lines shattered, units scattered, Bastogne surrounded, panic whispers through Allied headquarters like a sickness. But something else is happening now, something the German high command didn't plan for. Far to the south, beyond the frozen forests, another army is moving, quietly at first, then faster still. And German prisoners, men who haven't seen a single American tank yet, are starting to feel it. Back in the room, the American intelligence captain closes his notebook. You've heard stories, he says. The German officer nods once. In Africa, in Sicily, in France, he replies. Always the same pattern, silence, then chaos. He looks down at his hands. Our reports said he was resting, that his army was spent. A humorless smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. That is when he is most dangerous. The American doesn't correct him, doesn't need to. Because even now, especially now, Patton's tanks are still hours away. His artillery hasn't fired a shot. His infantry hasn't appeared on the horizon. And yet the psychological front is already collapsing. German soldiers captured along the Sauer River are no longer defiant. They're anxious, asking questions they were trained never to ask, whispering rumors to each other in holding pens. Patton is coming. Some swear they heard American engines in the distance. Others claim they saw Third Army markings on trucks that vanished into the snow. None of it is confirmed. It doesn't have to be. The name alone is enough. At another makeshift command post, miles away, a different German officer is being searched. His papers are soaked through. His map case is empty. When the Americans remove his helmet, his hair is matted with sweat despite the cold. He doesn't wait for the questions. "Tell me one thing," he says in broken English. "Is this Patton's sector?" The American sergeant laughs under his breath. "Why?" he asks. The German's eyes are wide now, naked. "Because," he says, "if it is, then Bastogne will not fall and we will not escape." This is what the Americans are beginning to notice. Not from intelligence summaries, not from decrypted radio traffic, but from faces. From the way German prisoners stop boasting and start calculating. From the way they lean closer when Patton's name comes up, as if hoping it's a lie and fearing it is. General George S. Patton hasn't fired a shot in the Ardennes yet. But he's already fighting a battle. And the enemy knows it. Because before Patton ever arrived at the front, he arrived somewhere else first. In their minds. And once he was there, nothing felt certain anymore. The rumors move faster than the snow clouds. They slip through prisoner cages, hitch rides on broken radio transmissions, pass from driver to officer to staff clerk in whispers meant to sound casual. No one officially announces it. No order is written. No communique confirms it. But by the night of December 21st, 1944, German units across the Ardennes are asking the same question in different ways. Who commands the Americans opposite us? Which army is moving from the south? Is it him? You can almost feel the moment when uncertainty turns into dread. At a regimental command post east of Clervaux, a German major studies a situation map lit by a single lantern. The red grease pencil lines marking the American front are outdated already. They keep shifting, slipping. An aide enters, snow still clinging to his shoulders. "Prisoners taken near Edelbruck," the aide says. 2 corporals, 1 lieutenant. The major doesn't look up. "And they asked if Patton was here." That gets his attention. The major slowly sets the pencil down. "Did you tell them?" The aide shakes his head. "No, Herr Major, we said nothing." The major exhales through his nose, long, controlled. "Good," he replies, "because if they believe it, it will spread." He doesn't say the rest out loud. If it spreads, discipline cracks. If discipline cracks, timing fails. If timing fails, this offensive dies. Everyone in that room understands what Patton represents. Speed, ruthlessness, pressure without pause. Patton doesn't fight the enemy he sees. He fights the enemy before it's ready. And that is exactly what the Germans fear most right now. Months earlier, German intelligence officers had compiled thick folders on Patton's campaigns. They studied him like a disease. North Africa, Sicily, France. Always the same warning at the end of the reports. Once engaged, disengagement becomes impossible. Patton's forces didn't pause to reorganize. They didn't wait for perfect supply lines. They pushed, improvised, exploited panic. When resistance stiffened, he didn't pull back, he went around. German commanders remembered the humiliation of watching entire formations unravel, not because they were destroyed, but because they were outpaced. So when the Ardennes offensive began, there was quiet relief inside German headquarters. Patton was south, too far south. His Third Army, exhausted after racing across France, was believed to be incapable of rapid maneuver, frozen in place, predictable. That belief is now collapsing. At a prisoner processing area near Diekirch, American MPs listen as 2 enlisted Germans argue heatedly in low voices. "He is not here," one insists. "It is impossible." The other shakes his head. They said the same in France, he replies. Then the road was full of American tanks. The Americans exchange glances. They don't interrupt. They don't need to. Fear is doing the work for them. Far behind the lines at Allied headquarters, General George S. Patton stands over a map table. He's been awake for nearly 36 hours. His eyes are bloodshot. His helmet rests nearby, the polished stars dull under fluorescent light. Officers crowd around him, corps commanders, staff planners, engineers. Patton doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. "Gentlemen," he says, tapping the map with a riding crop, "we are going north." Someone hesitates. "Sir, the roads." "I know the roads," Patton snaps. "They're frozen, that's good, keeps the mud down." Another officer clears his throat. "The Germans don't expect." Patton cuts him off. Exactly. What Patton understands, what German prisoners are already beginning to sense, is that expectation is the real battlefield. While German commanders believe Third Army needs days to turn, Patton is already issuing orders. While German intelligence still debates whether he can move, his columns are forming. Entire divisions pivot 90 degrees in brutal winter conditions. Fuel trucks reroute. Artillery units repack. Engineers prepare to clear roads that barely exist. It shouldn't work. Which is why it will. Back at the front, German patrols report unusual activity to the south. Increased radio chatter. Distant engine noise at night. American reconnaissance planes appearing where none were expected. The reports are cautious, vague. But together, they form a picture no one wants to acknowledge. A colonel at 5th Panzer Army headquarters folds one report after another, jaw tightening. "Patton," he mutters. He remembers Sicily, the speed, the confusion, the way orders arrived too late to matter. He knows this pattern. And so do the prisoners. Captured soldiers are no longer asking if Patton is here. They are asking how soon. In one interrogation, a German lieutenant breaks down completely. "You don't understand," he tells his captors, voice cracking. "If Patton is coming, our flanks will be gone before morning." The American officer says nothing. He lets the silence stretch. Because the lieutenant is right. Patton isn't trying to smash the German advance head-on. He's trying to make it irrelevant. And somewhere in the frozen forests of the Ardennes, German commanders are beginning to realize that the battle they thought they were winning may already be slipping out of their hands. Not because they were outgunned, but because they were outpaced. And Patton hasn't even arrived yet. The snow never stops falling. By December 22, 1944, the Ardennes feels sealed off from the rest of the world, white, silent, unforgiving. Roads vanish beneath ice. Trees stand like splintered bayonets. Men move slowly, carefully, knowing one mistake can mean frostbite or death. This is where fear settles in. Not the sharp fear of incoming artillery, not the panic of an ambush. This is slower, heavier. It spreads through waiting. On a ridgeline overlooking a narrow Belgian road, a German infantry platoon digs in around a disabled half-track. The engine froze hours ago. The men curse it quietly, stamping their feet to keep blood moving. A young Jeffrader peers through binoculars into the tree line to the south. Nothing. No tanks, no infantry, no movement. And yet he can't shake the feeling that something is coming. He lowers the binoculars and turns to his squad leader. "Have you heard?" he asks. The older man doesn't answer at first. He keeps staring down the road. "Yes," he finally says, "I've heard." That's all that needs to be said. The rumors reach the front lines in fragments. A prisoner taken near Bastogne claimed Patton was personally commanding the relief force. A radio operator swore he intercepted Third Army call signs. A driver said he saw American columns moving through the night without headlights. Each story is incomplete, contradictory. But together, they form something worse than certainty. They form anticipation. German soldiers begin checking their flanks more often. Patrols are sent out that don't return. Orders to hold positions are followed with less confidence, more hesitation. Men ask questions they shouldn't. What if the Americans come from the south? What if we are cut off? What if this is another trap? The veterans don't answer. They remember. One of them fought Patton in Sicily. He remembers the heat, the dust, the way American units kept appearing where they weren't supposed to be. Roads thought secure suddenly filled with Shermans. Communications failed. Orders contradicted reality. It wasn't chaos. It was orchestration. And now, standing knee-deep in snow, he feels the same sensation crawling up his spine. That sense that the enemy already knows where you are. Behind the lines, captured German officers tell American interrogators something unexpected. They aren't afraid of Patton's firepower. They're afraid of his tempo. He will not wait, one major explains, hands clasped tightly. He never waits. He attacks while you are still thinking. Another adds, when he stops, it is because he has already decided where to strike next. The Americans listen carefully. They don't interrupt. Because this is exactly what Patton wants. Patton himself is on the move now. His command jeep skids along icy roads as columns stretch for miles behind him. The Third Army is executing something no German planner believed possible, a full-scale, midwinter operational pivot. Men fall asleep at the wheel and are shaken awake. Engines are kept running through the night to prevent freezing. Artillery units abandon comfort for speed. Patton accepts the losses. Broken trucks can be replaced. Time cannot. He radios his corps commanders with a simple message. Move now, worry later. At the German front, the waiting becomes unbearable. A company commander near Novel studies his watch again and again. He was promised reinforcements. They haven't arrived. Instead, distant artillery begins to rumble from an unexpected direction. The south. He feels it in his chest before he hears it clearly. Not heavy fire, not yet. Just probing. Testing. The commander closes his eyes. Patton, he whispers. The name feels like a verdict. Prisoners captured that afternoon are different. They are quieter. Some refuse to speak at all, others speak too much. One NCO tells his captors, "We were told to hold, but hold against what?" Another asks, "How fast does he move?" No one answers. This is the moment when the German offensive begins to lose its shape. Not because it is defeated, but because it is forced to react. Divisions meant to push west now look south. Reserves meant for breakthrough are held back to guard flanks that didn't exist days earlier. The timetable slips. Hours matter. And Patton is stealing them. By nightfall, German forward observers report American armor where none should be. Contacts are brief, violent, confusing. And still, the main blow hasn't landed. Which is what terrifies them most. Because Patton never shows his hand all at once. He squeezes. He watches. He waits for the moment when the enemy realizes, too late, that every option is worse than the last. Somewhere in the snow, a German soldier tightens his grip on his rifle and stares south into the dark. He doesn't know when Patton will arrive. Only that when he does, everything will change. December 23, 1944, just after dawn. The sky finally breaks. For days, the Ardennes has been sealed under cloud and snow, trapping men in a frozen limbo. Now, without warning, the ceiling lifts. Pale winter sunlight spills across the forests and fields, glinting off ice and steel. American aircraft roar overhead. For German troops on the ground, it feels like the world has turned against them all at once. Fighters strafe roads, bombers hunt supply columns, radios crackle with reports that make no sense, American armor appearing where maps say nothing should be. And then the artillery starts. From the south. Not sporadic, not probing. Sustained. Measured. Relentless. This is no longer rumor. This is contact. Near the village of Chaumont, a German forward observer stumbles out of his dugout as shells walk across a ridgeline behind him. He scrambles for his field glasses, hands shaking. Through drifting smoke, he sees them. American tanks. Not many yet, a spearhead moving fast, aggressively, infantry riding the hulls, heads down, rifles slung. White stars stark against olive drab. He doesn't need to ask who commands them. He already knows. At a makeshift headquarters, a German battalion commander grips the edge of a table as reports flood in. Enemy armor south of the line. Artillery fire increasing. Communications cut with 2nd Company. He listens, nods, writes nothing. Finally, someone says it out loud. 3rd Army, an officer whispers. The room goes silent. Because 3rd Army means only one thing. Patton. Prisoners taken that morning no longer ask questions. They already have the answer. One captain stares at the ground as his helmet is removed. We thought we had time, he says flatly. Time to finish Bastogne, time to reorganize. He looks up, eyes hollow. We forgot about him. Inside his command vehicle, Patton studies the map with a faint smile. The relief of Bastogne is no longer theoretical. It's unfolding in real time. Columns are pushing through snow-choked roads with brutal efficiency. Artillery units leapfrog forward, firing almost continuously. Engineers clear paths under fire. Patton's voice crackles over the radio. Keep moving, he says. Don't stop for prisoners. It isn't cruelty. It's urgency. He knows what the Germans are feeling right now. He felt it before from the other side of the map. The moment when initiative is gone. When every order is reactive. When the enemy dictates not just where you fight, but how. At Bastogne, the pressure begins to ease. German attacks falter as units are pulled away to meet the new threat. Supply lines stretch thin. Fuel runs low. Patton's armor punches through near a Senois. The siege is cracking. German officers see it happening and understand what it means. The offensive, the last gamble, is bleeding out. Later that day, a group of German prisoners is marched past a column of American tanks idling on a frozen road. The engines rumble steadily, confidently. One of the prisoners stops walking. He stares. The American guard shoves him forward. The prisoner doesn't resist, he just shakes his head. So fast, he mutters, always too fast. By nightfall, the question is gone. No one asks if Patton is here anymore. They ask how to survive him. And that is the difference between a rumor and a reckoning. Patton's reputation had arrived first. Now the army has caught up. And for the Germans, the realization is devastating. Because once Patton is in motion, he doesn't just break through lines. He breaks assumptions. He breaks timetables. He breaks hope. And there is no going back. The fighting doesn't stop when the realization sets in. It gets worse. December 24, 1944, Christmas Eve. The Ardennes is no longer quiet. The snow is churned black by tracks and shellfire. Villages that survived the first shock of the German offensive are now torn open from a different direction. From the south, Patton's 3rd Army is no longer arriving. It is there. German units begin receiving orders that contradict one another. Hold the line. Fall back. Counterattack. Protect the flank. All at once. None of them fully achievable. A regimental commander stares at his radio operator in disbelief. Which order came last, he asks. The operator shrugs helplessly. It doesn't matter anymore. The initiative is gone. Captured German soldiers now speak openly. Almost too openly. One Feldwebel, exhausted and frostbitten, tells an American lieutenant, "We planned for Montgomery. We planned for Bradley." He shakes his head. No one planned for Patton in winter. Another prisoner adds quietly, "When he moves, he does not care what season it is, or what we believe is possible." The Americans don't correct them. They just keep moving. Patton's relief column reaches Bastogne. The siege isn't instantly broken. The fighting is still savage, but the psychological noose tightens around the German offensive. The Germans can feel it slipping. Not in a single collapse, but in 1,000 small failures. A fuel truck destroyed here. A road cut there. A unit arriving too late. An order that no longer fits the battlefield. This is how Patton wins. Not by annihilation. By suffocation. German headquarters attempt to adjust. Reserves are shifted south. Panzer divisions meant for breakthrough are now defending against an enemy that wasn't supposed to exist in this place, at this time. Every kilometer Patton advances forces another German decision. And every decision costs time. Time the Germans no longer have. By December 26th, it's clear. The Ardennes offensive will not reach the Meuse. It will not split the Allies. It will not change the war. The prisoners know it before the generals admit it. One German officer, captured while trying to regroup his shattered unit, looks at an American major and says something unexpected. "You are lucky," he says. The American raises an eyebrow. "Lucky." The German nods. "You have Patton." Years later, intelligence summaries would note the phenomenon clinically. Enemy morale declined sharply upon confirmation of Third Army involvement. But that sentence misses the truth. This wasn't just about tanks or artillery. It was about inevitability. When German prisoners asked, "Is Patton really here?" they weren't asking for information. They were asking for certainty. And once they had it, something inside them broke. Because Patton represented a kind of war they could no longer survive. A war without pauses, without mercy for mistakes, without time to recover. By the time the snow begins to melt, the Ardennes is littered with abandoned equipment, shattered units, and the remnants of a failed gamble. The Germans will retreat. The war will grind on. But the question will never return. No one will ask if Patton is coming again. Because they've learned what the answer means. When his name appears on the battlefield, the outcome has already begun to shift. And for those who heard it first, in cold interrogation rooms under bare light bulbs, with frozen hands and tired eyes, the war was lost long before the tanks arrived. And